Hello everyone and thank you for joining me. My name is Arjan and today I will be having some fun with a fountain pen that has been in my possession for more than 10 years, the Schneider Base Uni fountain pen. When I originally purchased the pen, it came as a set paired with a ballpoint version as well. Since then I have lost the ballpoint, no idea how. Either he grew a pair of legs and left me out of jealousy, or was permanently borrowed. Fortunately, whatever the reason might have been, the fountain pen decided to stay safe in my backpack. I do not remember the actual price that I paid for it. I know I got it from eBay though. Looking at prices that are on eBay nowadays, just for the fountain pen, it seems to be around 24 Canadian dollars with free shipping to Canada at least. From the get-go, I have to say that this for me it's one of the most comfortable fountain pens that I own. The construction of the fountain pen, most of it, it's out of plastic, with the exception of the clip, which is quite a big clip and has a very interesting shape and is made out of metal. As you can see, the fountain pen has a very intricate shape. Most of it's straight lines for the cap and the barrel. However, it has some nice accents, cutoffs on the barrel and on the cap. On the cap, what you will find is the actual nib size that it's in stamped, not stamped, more like printed on the top of the cap. There are no actual finials that we can talk about. What I like about it is how it has this groove in the cap and continues with the metal clip, which is, like I said, a very interesting shape. While the cap it's mostly rounded, as you can see, it will have a sort of a flat-ended part where the clip rests, but it's not 100% flat. It does have a little bit of a curve to it. And then continues with the barrel, which actually contains a nice ink window, pretty large ink window. Inside we will see a converter that is not included with the pen. That's something that I've added afterwards. And the shape of the barrel, it's similar with the shape of the cap, where it's mostly rounded with a domed section where the ink window sits. Doing a quick shirt test, as you probably would expect by the shape of the clip, sliding over pockets, it's actually very easy, absolutely no issues. Taking it off, it's just as nice, and the clip is very springy, very usable, and it could accommodate quite a lot of pockets or type of pockets. And by the opening that it has, it definitely can slide on edges that are quite beefy. The cap on the pen, it's a pull-push cap. It can be removed very easily and it secures in place with a very nice satisfying click. Never had any issues with the cap. Once you remove the cap, you will be greeted by a nice rubberized section and a very intriguing nib that I actually like. And again, never had any issues with it. Looking inside a cap, as you can see from the endoscope video, things are fairly simple, nothing complicated in there. We do have an inner liner to seal the nib. And again, never had any issues with ink drying on this pen. Going back to the section and the nib, as mentioned, the section it's rubberized, is covered in a rubber insert. And this thing is very comfortable. I really like the approach that Schneider has with helping you holding the pen in a comfortable position. As you can see, unlike Safari, the top part of the pen, it's actually rounded, so you can basically grip it however you want. However, the underneath part, it's cut off in such a way that it sits right on this part of your finger, so basically you won't sit where you usually get that I wouldn't know what to call it, hole in your finger from writing too much. And that's why I find it very comfortable. It actually stands on the edges of that part, and it relieves a lot of pressure on the finger. I really like it. The other thing that is worth to mention, if you look at a nib and then you slowly roll it, you'll see that the cutout, it's actually a little bit off from the middle. So basically it will help you to hold the nib in position as needed, because as you write, this finger will never stay perpendicular with the paper. You'll always be at an angle, and that's why you have that cutoff angle. And the other thing that I like about these pens is that these cutouts are specific for right-handed or left-handed. In my case, it is for right-handed because, well, I am right-handed. The only issue that I see with this is that if you're ambidextrous, you won't be able to use the pen with both hands. You will only be able to use it with whatever that rubberized part is made for, left or right. As for the barrel, as mentioned, it does contain a nice big ink window. They have Schneider, which is actually imprinted on the inside. You don't actually feel anything on the outside. And not sure if you can hear it, but the barrel does hold in place with a nice click, so you can't actually remove it by mistake. Removing it, however, is very simple. You have plastic threads on plastic threads, and basically in my case it reveals a very nice converter that, in case you recognize it, this is a Lachieva converter. When I bought the Lachieva Lux fountain pen, review up here if you're curious about it, I discovered that they had these converters for sale separate, and I bought a pack of 6, and I've pretty much been using them in all my Schneider fountain pens. And yes, the converter, it's an international standard converter, so you can basically use international cartridges if that's what you want. And probably that's what you'll be forced to do, since this fountain pen does not come with a converter from the box. And as you can see from the endoscope video, the barrel inside, it's fairly smooth, nothing to talk about. Everything is in place as it should be. Again, I forgot to mention a few things, so I'm recording this after the inking process, so the converter is full. What I forgot to mention is that the fountain pen actually has a pretty good size, so holding it in hand unposted, it's actually pretty good length, especially for my hand. I have no issues writing with it as is. The balance of the pen, it's slightly towards the nib, something that I actually like in a fountain pen, unposted. And if you find it too small, the pen pulls very nice and actually very secure, no issues there. It feels like it's actually holding by air pressure. And in hand, posted, the pen is actually very good size. Maybe a little bit long if you have smaller hands, but I have no issues with it. I have no trouble using it posted or unposted. And the balance of the pen posted, it's actually in the middle of the pen. So this is the fountain pen. Nothing much to say about it. Like I mentioned, it's one of my most comfortable fountain pens that I own. I've never been disappointed by it. I always enjoy using it, and I'm happy to do a sketch with it today. So let me go through the inking process, which will be a little bit different for reason that I'll explain. And then we'll do a writing sample, and then we'll dive into a sketch and see what this thing can do. For today's drawing, I will be using the Platinum Carbon ink. One thing to explain before doing the inking, because this section is rubberized and it's actually movable, it can be removed if needed. That also means that ink would get in between that rubber grip and the actual plastics part of the section. So I am not gonna dunk this into the ink bottle. And this is one of those cases where I would gladly use a syringe to fill the converter. And as such, I will be showing you the ultimate technique for filling up your converter with a syringe. Obviously, you can use that on a cartridge as well, where you can get the most out of it. Grab your favorite syringe, press it down, put it in the ink, slowly suck in ink. You don't want to introduce air bubbles. Then put the syringe inside and slowly put it back in the converter. Again, slowly because you don't want to introduce air bubbles. And do it again until it's full. Fill up this converter this much, don't go more than that, at least for this fountain pen. Then put the converter back in, put the nib above the bottle and release a couple of droplets, maybe 2 or 3, that should be fine. The idea is that we're trying to prime the feed. Turn it around, put the piston all the way up, shake it a little bit, remove the piston. Make sure all the ink is seated at the bottom. Grab your syringe again, fill it up, and fill your converter or cartridge again. Slowly, you don't want to introduce bubbles. Put the converter back in place. Clean your nib. Most probably you will get dirty when you put ink back into the bottle. And that's it, you're ready to go. You have a full converter, a primed feed, and you have the most ink you can have out of this converter. Time to do a writing sample. Alright, let's see if this fountain pen can write its own name. One thing that I will say is that based on what I remember, this nib is a little bit more on the medium rather than fine size. So this is Schneider. I forgot base. Base. Uni. Fountain pen. As you can see, the nib is very generous with ink. The flow is very good. At least on this paper, it actually feathers a little bit, which is new to me on this. And the reverse works actually just as well. And something that I always liked about it, and gives you a very nice fine line. All right. Alright, so like I mentioned, the nib is more on the medium size, at least on this paper and with this ink. We will see how the drawing will work out. I'll probably do a drawing that doesn't have as much fine detail to it and maybe more of a loose drawing. But the flow is very good. No complaints there. And I do like the reverse. And as you probably expected, there's no real line variation. You get maybe a little bit of a thicker line just because you press on paper and you just put more ink on that page. But other than that, everything seems to be working as it should. Alright, let me dive into a drawing or a sketch and I'll let you know what I think of this fountain pen. As mentioned, today I went for some loose sketches, and I mean sketches. I ended up with doing 2 drawings. I started with one of them that were just random lines, but did not really feel it that much, and then started a second one with some abstract architecture, and then, once I was done, I jumped back to the first one to finish it. I'm not sure what I end up with, but I gotta admit it was fun and relaxing. This business of drawing abstract things from my head, it's tougher than I thought. I'll soldier on as much as I can. The nib on the fountain pen turned out to be way wider than what I remembered. In my eyes now feels more close to a broad line than a fine one, way past medium in my opinion. It was also one of the things that threw me off while doing the drawings. I wasn't sure what to do with it. Other than that though, the pen performed perfectly without any kind of issues. Good flow, no skipping, and no unpleasant surprises. What do I like about the base Uni? As mentioned, I really like the comfortable grip on this pen. I do prefer their approach over the Safari grip. Gives you more freedom to move your fingers around, but still being able to help you hold the pen in proper orientation. You also gotta love how they specifically build their grips for maximum comfort for people that are using either right or left hand for writing or drawing. Other things that I like: beautiful nibs, good ink flow, good quality build, and a very interesting and functional clip and a very large ink window on the barrel. What I don't like as much on the base Uni, there are very few things that I dislike about this fountain pen. The first thing will be that the converter is not included, and this is from a company that builds pretty decent converters, and they are used by a lot of pen makers out there. I find it quite funny in a way. The second thing, which is more of a nitpick, is the cap. While it does pose quite nice, deep and secure, it does wiggle a little bit sideways, and depending on the grip that you have on the pen, you might feel that. There were a few portions while I was drawing and I was moving the pen very quickly, and it was actually clicking. It was actually interesting. The other thing was the nib. Now that my preferences have changed over the years and I'm starting to use fountain pens for drawing purposes, I'm starting to notice more and more the inconsistency of the nib sizes. This pen almost makes me wish to get another one and see if things have changed over the years. But since I am taking a break from buying fountain pens until at least the end of July, I think I'll try and stay away from that. And the last thing, which is more of an oddball rather than anything, I like the ink window, but on my model at least, this ink window is facing away from me. Not a deal breaker, I can turn my hand a little bit and very quickly notice what's inside there. It's just odd, that's all. Overall, I like the fountain pen and I have always did. If I would have to choose between this and the Lamy Safari, this base Uni would win all day long when it comes to long writing or drawing sessions and just being a comfortable workhorse. It's a pen that I have no issues recommending it, and I think I will probably be keeping this for writing only, since the nib is a little bit too broad for my liking when it comes to drawing. I mean, I guess it could work very easily for loose sketching like I did today. I think for this kind of drawings, it's perfect. Has anyone had the chance to try Schneider fountain pens? Which one is your favorite, if any? I have a few pens from them that I will slowly go through them as I have the time, but I have to admit, I think Schneider can make some really nice, decent fountain pens. If I have missed anything or you have any other questions, as usual, leave a comment below and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for joining me today and I hope I will catch you next time. Wish you all the best and a wonderful day or night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye.